name's Jessica Lambert, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder with my husband, John Lambert, of VALA East Side. It stands for Venues for Artists in the Local Area. Some of you I know pretty well, some of you I don't, so I'll just tell you really quick what VALA is. We're a 501c3 nonprofit visual arts organization, and which literally means that we are beholden to the public good. We're a public charity under the eyes and auspices of the IRS. So as much as we are a visual arts organization, we are a public arts organization. So we're always very keen on partnering with other organizations like-minded, like RASP, and of course the Redmond Laureate program. So we're very excited for you all to be here, and I hope that this will be just one of many, or this is actually the second time that we've had, is it? Yes, because we hosted Jeannine when we had our grand opening in this space, and if you followed our trajectory since 2010 when we incorporated, we've had, this is our 6th installation. The installation you're standing in the midst of is of the Redmond Play Studio teachers and students. It's our 6th installation at Redmond Town Center. We're going on our 2nd Arts Festival. We facilitate the artist portion of the festival, and Redmond Town Center is the venue. And so that's their contribution to the arts to this point is in-kind donation of space. So that for us is a huge deal because it offsets our hard costs of rent, and so that we are able to program and host events like this and keep it happening. So, but to get on to the program at hand, I want to say that I had the pleasure of being I'm on the Arts Commission, and I was part of the commission that actually voted to have Jeannine Hall come in as our 2nd Redmond Poet Laureate, and I can tell you now that it was no question who the winner was going to be, and it's been a pleasure to witness her amazing speaking abilities, and always a pleasure. So Jeannine Hall is, of course, the current Poet Laureate of Redmond, Washington, and author of 3 books, mind you, Becoming the Villainess, She Returns to the Floating World, and her latest, Unexplained Fevers. Her work has been featured on NPR's The Writer's Almanac, Verse Daily, and the year's Best Fantasy and Horror. She is 2013 Jack Straw writer, teaches part-time for National University, and volunteers for Crag Creek Review, and is just an amazing person.
This woman is so inspiring. She is single-handedly bringing visual art back to Redmond, which I say. And yes, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for being here. I'm wearing the tiara to mark our fairy tale theme, and all of the readers also have very small tiaras that they may choose to wear, because we do, after all, have free will in this world. But I wanted to say thank you to VALA and to Jessica and everybody else who helped us set up. Thank you so much to the readers for being here. We have some of the brightest stars of the East Side with us here today, so I'm very excited about that. So today's activity is all around fairy tales, because my 3rd book was themed around fairy tales. I thought it might be fun to do a whole bunch of people's reactions to different kinds of fairy tales. So that's what we'll be hearing today. And I'm going to start out, I hope you enjoy these poems from my new book, Unexplained Fevers, which is all about fairy tale heroines trying to escape from traps like illness, body image, and cultural expectations. Sleeping Beauty becomes a morphine addict. Snow White is a teen model with chronic fatigue syndrome. And after I'm finished, you'll hear everybody else read as well. So without further ado, and let me remind you, eat everything that we have. It's a must. You don't have to do that. But if you don't, I will have to eat it all. So it's very sad. It'll be very sad. All right. I also want to remind you, if you haven't signed up on the list already, I think I passed that around already, but just to sign in on the outside there. And when you leave, be sure to take one of, Michaela has some beautiful art that she did for the book, and there's 2 art cards with poems on the back as a little memorial thing for the reading. So please take one of those. All right. Without further ado, I forgot to tell you the most important part. Without this knowledge, you'll never make it. It's 1 part fashion advice and 2 parts survivalism. Learn to talk to people so they think you're honest, but never be honest. Cooking eggs may save your life, so crack them neat and firm, pour into the skillet, stir gently. Forget about your shoes. People will judge you by your shine, the imminent light you offer them. Be a lamppost in the wilderness. Be the elephant in the showroom. If you steal the idol, make sure to carry a weighted bag of sand. No surprises. We've lied about having it all. It's either the piano or the pit viper. Cinderella's shoe came off at midnight because it hurt. And Red Riding Hood's real story involved cannibalism and a striptease. It's a true story. Long bangs hide a multitude of sins. Don't wear red lipstick. Don't you kiss your mother with that mouth. Ask your grandmother about the herbs she used to swallow while pregnant. The butterflies here didn't start out black. They were white as onion skin, and the forest more ominous before the smokestacks. Well, here's your little basket and red coat. Sweetheart, sweet meat, smile like you mean it. Shake what you've got while you've got it. Go out into the world and knock them dead. I finally did the one poem with the TR because it's so heavy. It's a very So this next poem, I was thinking about the Jack and Jill, you know, the old nursery rhyme, Jack and Jill went up the hill. And I was thinking how that so accurately reflects middle-aged marriage. Don't you think, Jack and Jill? So that's what I wrote about here, in which Jack and Jill decide whether to climb yet another hill. When this new narrative began, it had nothing to do with moving trucks or hospital rooms. It started with clover and costumes, charming children and clamoring crowds, less claustrophobic. It all turned on a dime, the tipping point, and then the long trip down. We swore we would follow each other anywhere, but anywhere turned out to be a lot like Ohio. So we headed for the coast, the climate cool and the clouds less dramatic. Somehow we turned 30 without thunderous applause, our dreams dissipating into piles of paper. We stopped trying to perform pirouettes, preferring to keep our feet on the ground. We've sunk into the hard mud of a river valley, fingernails turning blue for lack of oxygen. Time to conjure some new magic. One more act for the play, where the pop-top lid reveals not snakes but snapdragons, where the earth stops keeping count of the mornings and shakes us loose. Our backpacks loaded with crocus bulbs and rosemary, ready to set root. So, I told you before I was reimagining Snow White as a teen model with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I've always thought teen modeling was a little creepy, so this poem may reflect those beliefs. I apologize to any teen models present. Plus, for Mother's Day, I thought this was nice because, of course, she has the evil mother. I'm not sure if that's what we should be celebrating on Mother's Day, but it's a day before Mother's Day, so I'm sure it's Mother's Day. Exactly. Snow White dreams. I fell asleep one night after cheerleading practice. After that, I didn't wake up. In my dreams, I am trapped inside a television, watched by a man with no face. Sometimes I sing to animals who can talk. I try to open the door of a woodland cottage full of shadow. If I scream, no one can hear me. I am an illusion everyone wants to be a part of. My mother wished me to be beautiful, then hated me for it. I think she put drugs in my soup. Men come to look at me even asleep. They take photographs. They murmur over red lips, white skin, ebony hair, a teen dream. Being the pretty one got so tiring. I got bored of making small talk. I suspect I snack in my sleep. My tongue is covered with crumbs. All the clocks have been set wrong. They're ticking inside my head. I swear there are cameras on me. I have become invisible. The white walls covered in posters and get well soon cards grow dusty like a tomb. Still, a vacuum like my cavernous heart. Eat it with salt. Poison me with apples, with ribbons, with combs. Mommy, I can't move. I need someone to breathe new life into this body. So, yes. I told you I thought it was creepy. All right, so we called this event Once Upon a Time, and I thought, what an evocative phrase, Once Upon a Time. It can start any story, right? You can go anywhere with it. So this is my poem called Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, he left me. I left him. It was winter. The white sun is what I remember most. When he called, I cut my hair. When I swayed, he swore. I wore a white dress and promised. He promised me. We chopped wood and parsley. Once upon a time, I called him. It was hopeful. It was hopeless. One might not have recovered, his hair white as winter sun. Once upon a time, we broke our crowns. Tumbling came after. Once upon a time, we thought we could. We drank from cacti in the desert and freshwater pools on an island. We drilled through sheetrock. We stained the ground with blackberry juice. Once upon a time, I have forgotten. There was no veil. It just sticks to your lips. I didn't hide. 3 days of mourning, 3 days to come clean. When we rode off into the sunset, we had no idea where we were going. We should have mapped. We should have paid attention to the steady beat of our bloodstreams. We should have touched the dirt, gone off-road. We should have guessed. Should have noted, we paid in gold and heartache. We stood there in the winter sunlight, white, gray as ghosts. We couldn't keep our story straight. It wasn't as they had told us. So once again, we're coming back to Snow White in this one. She had unexplained fevers, and this was written in the voice of one of the dwarves. She had unexplained fevers. Some nights she just wasn't herself, skin pale and damp as a child's. They laid her in a glass coffin, told me there was something in her throat. I said, yeah, we've all swallowed a lot of crap, choked down broken promises like apple. They just wanted to look at her, beautiful, her face still flushed, her lips red as blood on the windowsill. The promises of her mother come back to haunt her. Why do they wish beauty? Why not safety? At night they said she felt her eyes, there were eyes on her, but we said there was nobody there. No one could hurt her with us around. Still, she would fall down. One time the doc said her hair ribbon was laced with poison, absorbed through her scalp. She slept 12 days straight. We stayed over her and sang. She was nervous about strangers, had dreams about old women and mirrors. We figured she'd come to a bad end. Girls like that bruise easy like fruit. Girls like that always getting lost in the woods, looking for a father figure, trading in her high heels for hand-me-downs, but don't count her out yet. Something tells me she hasn't drawn her last breath. Her mouth is still open. She always felt something in her chest at night, said she felt hollow, something about trading her heart, something about destined for an early grave. You know girls like that always singing ballads about babies buried under trees. You never know with that kind of girl, hair dark as ebony, skin white as snow, full of nursery rhymes about red roses. This might be the wake-up call she needed. Sorry, it's a kind of long one, but it's a fun one to read out loud. All right, let's see. I'm going to read a couple more poems from the book. And so I just want to hold up this book. And the reason I'm doing that is because the artist standing in the back, Michaela Eaves, did the cover art for this book as well as the art you've seen around here. Yes, you can all give her a big round. So this is Unexplained Fevers, and she also did the artwork for my first book, Becoming the Villainess, which is over there by some of her artwork. So she's done 2 of my 3 books now, so I don't know what's happening now. We're just connected in that way. So it's very fun, and so all of these works were originally, we were trying to do concept art for the book, right? So these were all different ideas we had for what went with the poems in here. So the 2 art cards that I have go with 2 poems in here that I'll read really fast. The one with the Arctic fox, which is up here up front, is from this poem, Snow Bees Again. So Snow Bees, this kind of goes back to the Snow Queen. How many of you guys are familiar with the Snow Queen? Hands Christine or so a little bit. So Gerda goes off to rescue her boyfriend from the Snow Queen, who's taken him off to her evil lair with the snow, but he's forgotten her. Because the Snow Queen's magic, well, you know how men are, always. But no, seriously. So this kind of works with that, and so Gerda has gone off, and she hasn't been able to rescue her true love or whatever. So, Snow Bees Again. Oh, one of his lines in there is the snow was like bees all around her, which I always loved that image. I found a dead honeybee in the snow. The hives were full of them. The delicate paper of their homes fragile as their wings. The queen had gotten disoriented, had let her drones out into the frost to look for flowers hidden underground. We have all lost our way. When I left to find you, I had no idea it would bring me here. The sting and hum of snowflakes, feathers of snow drop from tree branches, white as a debutante's lace hem, white as clean chickens, their plumage like silk, white as skin that has never seen the sun. White as an Arctic fox's ruffled fur, white as bridal flowers, as funeral lilies. A girl hands out red roses and red apples in the snow, dark as blood. She sips the poison and dreams of the flowers her father planted in the yard that never quite lived up to the expectation of roses somehow. He took picture after picture and hung them in the house, skeletons and petals of imperfect roses. Roses and apples grow from the same family, the poison of apples hidden in the seed, the poison of roses hidden in the thorn. And the other poem from the little thing, this is on the back of the one with the girl handing out the apple, Fever Dream in January. Same basic premise. This is again Gerda talking, the Snow Queen character, but it's got a little Snow White in there too. Fever dream in January, and we can really identify with this today, I think. I press my face to the glass to feel the cold. Its ice flowers bloom against my scarlet cheek and neck and palm. I thought I had found you, but it turned out you were beyond me, beyond help, beyond anyone now. I never thought I'd turn domestic. I remember you baking the coconut and confectioner's sugar like snow on your skin. I melted. Anyway, what kind of dreams are these of dresses and dances no one remembers, least of all you and least of all me, the girl in tatters in no one's memory? Give me an apple, give me a rose, give me fever, then dim the sun, then ice, then my. I told you I'd forgotten, but the last shard of glass insists it's up. So, going a little lighter, there's a lot of advice in Grimm's fairy tales. There's a lot of questionable advice, I would say, in Grimm's fairy tales. So this is called Advice Left Between the Pages of Grimm's. And I don't know whether you'll agree that this is the advice you took home, but I think it is what I took home. Life is not a fairy tale, and this isn't your pumpkin coach. You're not lost in a magic wood, and that blood on your hands isn't from an innocent stag at all. Princess, remember to fill your pockets with more than breadcrumbs. And if you can't sleep, don't blame the legumes between the sheets. One look at that glass coffin they've set up should tell you everything you need to know about their intentions. Remember, a lot of girls wind up dismembered, and every briar rose has its thorn. Forget the sword and the magic stone. Forget enchantments and focus on the profit margin, the hard line. Read the subtext. So one last quote from the book, and then I will introduce our next reader. And everybody else I'm just so grateful that you're all here today and that we get to enjoy this. So thank you so much. It's been a wonderful year as Redmond's Poet Laureate, so I really appreciate that. And did I say this new book, $15? It's a bargain. Michaela's work all for sale too. We've got Kelly Davey who also has a book up for sale. So please take, it's called Burn This House, which I thought was nice. We have Unexplained Fevers and then Burning. I think it's really, it goes with the nice weather we're having. So she decides not to look back. So you've come all this way, colored your hair, and still the disguise didn't stick. The way the snakeskin slithers up your side, you'd never know your bag and boots beg to tell another story. And mother, is it a good one? We started in a small town pregnant. We started out on the road on our own. We left behind brothers and sisters that needed us. We wanted to see the city lights. We wanted to bring home a father, a lover, a new name. We grew tamer by lamplight. Tease your hair and grow talons, but your soft breath just escapes. Remember your hometown, the accent you lost, the school counselor who told you to give up and get married. Remember the childhood friend who burned himself to death. You knew you couldn't save. You have your 6 degrees of separation. You were lucky you ran when you did, with just the change in your pocket. So. Thank you so much. And once again, eat all the food. Okay, that's another. Buy books, buy art, eat food. It's all good. All right, our next reader is also going to be the MC for the remainder of the readings. Her name is Lee Bennett. She is a good friend of mine, has been a wonderful supporter of the Poet Laureate program the whole time I've been in it, so thank you for that. And Lee Bennett received, here's her official bio, received her MFA in creative writing from the University of Oregon with an emphasis on short fiction. So what she's doing in this poetry business, I was She's a past president of the board for Redmond Association of Spoken Word, or RASP. In Redmond. Lee is currently serving a second board as board member. In addition to writing poems and short stories, Lee has contributed arts reviews to Rewrite, the monthly newsletter from Richard House, and Art Dish magazine and Northwest Forum on Vital Visual Art. To support her writing habit, Lee edits software manuals and nonfiction and memoirs. She also volunteers for a local shelter, Perfect Pals, and other animal rescue organizations. Thank you so much, you guys. Here's Lee Bennett.
Thank you, Jeannine, for inviting me to read. It's a pleasure to be here. It really is. And thank you, Jeannine, for your contributions to the poetry community in Redmond. I also wanted to mention that I am, as a member of Redmond Association of Spoken Word, I am also very tickled that there are others of us here. There's a few Rasputians here, so that's very cool. Woo! Anyway, I had the pleasure of co-facilitating a poetry workshop for teens in April at the Redmond Library with Jeannine, and it was a fairy tale themed workshop, and I did the exercise along with the students that came. And so I'm going to share with you one of the poems that I wrote in that workshop, and also another one that I wrote all by myself. But here's what I learned from writing these fairy tale themed poems. It's fun to take fairy tales and twist them. That's what they were in the first place, twisted. It's fun to reinvent the lesser characters, the marginalized villains in fairy tales, for example, to expand upon their personas. It's a hoot to take the stories and turn them on their heads, and it's perfectly legal. I dedicate these poems to the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. First one is called The Wolf's Appetite. As I began to eat your grandmother, starting with her coarse pink feet, her face collapsing like a pale, puckering current, her eyes a fierce cerulean blue, she regarded me sadly, as if her fate were unavoidable. She opened her mouth, but no cries came, only the soft piping of a lute. Yet, when I had eaten up to her waist, her bony arms leapt out through her nightshirt, and she gouged my eyes with her evil claws. No longer hands with old crone knuckles and nails, but talons with a life of their own. I should have eaten her hands first. And this is the second one. I just finished it today, so it's a little... You know how sometimes when you write things, they just kind of like take over? So, hopefully I won't do any wolf-like things while I'm reading. The Wolf's Ego. No one knows, I say. No one appreciates my gift for mimicry. I am the mockingbird of the Lopine world, the counterfeiter of voices, the Tom Ripley of the animal kingdom, whose murderous talents get him those tasty bits. I fooled the forest as I pattered along, silver gray, mean and grinning. I fooled the feisty robin with my raven's caw. Now I've added blue eggs to the menu. I fooled the woodsman as he swung his axe. I called in the dusk like a contented thrush. Then I donned the woodsman cap and took up a satchel, whistling the way home, woodsman's bones in my belly. And when I came to the cottage, I even outwitted the squirrels. I chased them from the clearing, repeating their churlish rage with every staccato squeak and squeal. I fooled your grandmother as I knocked on the door, my voice sweet as fig butter. Grandmother, grandmother, let me in. I have come to sit by your fire. Child, cried the bone from her bed, is that you? What have you brought me? Let me in, grandmother, I replied, my soft voice quavering, high and trilling like a silver bell, as I imagined yours would. Let me in, for I am cold and hungry and the door is latched. Pull the bobbin, Granny said, and the latch will go up. And so I did. That was Granny's last remark. I fooled the forest, the robin, the woodsman, the squirrels, and your grandmother. And I can fool you. Here I wait, in Granny's gown, still damp with sweat and blood. Here I wait for you, peevish, because I must have just one morsel more. Okay, now we're ready for the next reader of Fractured Fairy Tales. Kelly, you got that, did you? Our next reader is Kelly Davio. She is a managing editor of the Los Angeles Review, associate editor of Fifth Wednesday Journal, and a reviewer for Women's Review of Books. She is a Pushcart nominee whose work has been honored in Best New Poets and who has published poems in journals including Gargoyle, the Cincinnati Review, Bellingham Review, and others. She holds an MFA in poetry from Northwest Institute of Literary Arts, Whidbey Writers Workshop, and teaches English as a second language in Bellevue. Kelly, come on up.
Hi. It's so cool to be in such a beautiful space. Thanks so much to VALA for having us here, and Jeannine for inviting all of us readers to be here today. This is a real treat. So, I have my book with me today. This is Burn This House. This just came out in March from Redmond Press, and I've got some copies over here. I'm not reading a poem from this book today, but I can't resist any opportunity to shamelessly self-promote. So. Easy applause there. Let's see what happens after this poem. I'm just going to read one poem today. I don't generally tend to write a lot of fairy tale poems, but I had something interesting happen to me about a year ago, and I've been wondering how to write about it. My husband Peter and I had our home broken into while we were both at work, and a couple of heroin addicts stole just about everything that we owned at that time. And sort of in the process of ruminating about that experience and thinking about how to process all of that, I started thinking about the Goldilocks tale and what a raw deal the bears really get in that tale. Here's this girl, she breaks into these bears' house, sleeping in their beds, eating their porridge, and yet she's the heroine of this story. So this is a poem called The Portrait of the Burglar as Goldilocks, in which she gets treated a little less kindly than she normally does. Portrait of the Burglar as Goldilocks. Take off your shoes, little one. If your feet are soiled and sweaty from boots, that's even better. The dirt will bury itself in the carpet and it won't surface again. Drop your coat on the sofa, dear. Every burr and leaf from the forest will snag at throw pillows, nestling into the woven quilt. Does the soft give of the couch cushion make you sleepy? Nick a quick nap. You've earned it today. With your hard run through the woods, hidden from the sight of sharp-toothed constables who'd gobble you bit by blonde bit for a confession, a plea. Have I piqued your appetite? The kitchen is just there. Granola, bottle of red wine, half a turkey sandwich. Try it all, cookie, is yours. The ice cream on your tongue and the spoon that ferried it there. The bowl in your hand, the glass on the table, everything belongs to you now. When you're ready, take a bag from the closet. Pick a few nice things for yourself. The diamonds will look well against your pale skin. But don't discount the bits and bobs. That stick of deodorant will make itself handy, you know. And you'll need the camera to remember today once you've poured out the kitchen window. Frayed screen catching your yellow dress. Your brain hot and veins plump with heroin. How else will you remember? How else to think of we bears arriving home, shuffling stunned through our empty rooms, counting our losses and calling the sheriff? How else to document your sooty handprints that will spend days scrubbing and scrubbing from our walls?
All right. Well, that was fun. you should come read at RASP. Last Friday of every month. I'll talk to you. Our next reader is Elizabeth Carroll Hayden. She's a lifelong resident of the Pacific Northwest, where she and her husband raised 2 children. She is an unassuming school teacher of deaf and hard of hearing students, who no one suspects has an alter ego writing poetry and fiction. While she has a BA in journalism, she has lost her heart to the music of poetry. She has had poems published in Belletrist. In 2002, Elizabeth participated in the Redmond Centennial Poetry Project, which some of you may be familiar with, which published the anthology 10 by 10. When she's not writing or teaching, she loves to dance, ballroom, Latin, and swing. And she is also on the board of directors of Redmond Association of Spoken Word. Please welcome Elizabeth. Woo.
Okay, I was also thinking about the characters who are in these stories and how some of them may be seen in the wrong light. And so the first story I've written is about Snow White, and thinking about that poor stepmom who, takes I've got two poems. The first one is A Mother's Love. You beg me, don't poison these apples, but I tell you this is not poison. Apples, crimson coated, protect my fair daughter, skin white as falling snow on the first December morn. He covets beauty to protect, to possess. I protect beneath hard glass, shielding the heart he yearns to charm. Not my birth child, my heart's child. The mirror shows her future, face old like mine. Beauty fades, forgotten, heart cut out by a prince as he vanishes off to hunt new possessions. Okay. And the next one, I got my fairy tales a little bit confused, and I realized that after I'd written it. So, mixed fairy tales never end well. Baby blue dress, blue like Paul Newman's eyes, with your blonde, bouffant updo crowning you as you wait for fairies and fate to drape pastel magic around your revealed shoulders. But beware the prince. His sword can cut you as easily as it slices the briar rose envelope that engulfs you. Better to be Paul Newman, blue eyes fading to sepia, and blast your way out of this pumpkin to write your own ending.
Our next reader, Rebecca Meredith, poet, writer, and psychotherapist in private practice. Her poetry has appeared in numerous publications. She is poet Laureate Emeritus of Redmond, our first poet. She is currently negotiating with a literary manager who will be working to have her novel, The Last of the Pascagoula, optioned for film. Please welcome Rebecca. Yeah.
Hey. Hey. So, I have two pieces as well, and really like the idea of breaking the frame. So the first kind of breaks it temporally, and the next kind of speaks to the people who tell the fairy tales. The first is called Fairy Tale Princesses Compare Princes at Tea in the Retirement Home. Face it, girls, they were freaks. It wasn't about us. It was never about us. It was about the slipper and the helpless little foot inside. Any foot, as long as it fit, the man never looked into my eyes. I'd give good money for a man who liked feet. He wanted me to flop around like I was still half fish and could sing the oysters off the bottom of the sea. Almost drowned me in the hot tub a couple times. At least you got to keep your eyes open, and don't get me started about apples and glass coffins, night after night lying perfectly still while he sucked that thing from between my teeth. I'll see your glass coffin and raise you 30 feet of hair. If he wasn't washing it, he was combing it. If he wasn't combing it, he was braiding it. I swear one time I caught him tying extensions to the rose trellis. But I'll admit the Spanish combs were nice. Oh, but the way they danced with us. How troubadours sang about our beauty and our goodness and our love. Didn't we want to be the story of the beloved wounded prize? And after, didn't we laugh and cry at once for every daughter born? This is Old Wives. They would not let us preach from their holy pulpits and public squares, judging our mouths not fit for brimstone and angels. But thinking us suited to more menial work, they allowed that we could weave. And so we did. We wove the words that blanketed their dreams, every thread a story, every stitch a curse or a prayer, a lesson, an admonition, a parable, a psalm. We tenders of children and hearth fires wove poison and enchantments, apples and the sea. We spun cobweb gowns for dreams that never last, breadcrumbs and lost paths for disobedience, mirrors for secrets and shadows. We tangled motes of dust stirred by prodigal feet with hairs from the heads of maidens and the pelts of the wild that loved them. But children, they knew their bones were the looms on which we wove, their whispers and their screams, the warp and the woof of our truths. Their children sat open-mouthed at our feet, their laboring women listened from their beds, and even they, those certain masters, bated their breath and leaned in closer to us, the old and cast-off wives, to marvel and to be afraid.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Our next reader is the lovely and talented Pamela Denchfield, Brass Board Vice President, currently exploring poetry and memoir and knowing the importance of safe places for reading and writing. She supports gatherings that encourage new writers to express themselves. Also runs New VALA Poetry Open Mic. In her day job, Pamela writes user documentation for software products. Let's hear from Pamela.
Thank you, Laura Lee, and thank you, Jessica. She had to take off, but she in absentia, and all of VALA for creating this event. Thank you, Jeannine, for inviting me to do this exercise, which was a new one for me. It sounds like for a lot of people. And lastly, I want to say thank you to my husband, Chris, who is watching the dogs at home after they got in a fight yesterday. They have to be kept separate. Had a vet visit yesterday, last night, so all that excitement. And he's got his birthday dinner tonight. And his birthday dinner celebration tonight, and his real birthday was on Wednesday when I was emceeing for another poetry meeting. Thank you, Chris. Up there, may the thanks reach your ears all the way in Duval. Okay. I have two poems, and I don't know, should I just stick with the two? Because I have one more. Well, okay. All right, then I'll read three poems. I have two fairy tale poems, and then one old poem that I began to see fit and related to. What I found looking at Little Mermaid is it's a coming of age story, and I could see how it related to my coming of age story. So I'll read a little bit about that. So I'll open with one about the Little Mermaid. Then I'll read my old poem, and then I'll read one more about the Little Mermaid. This one's titled Little Mermaid. From blue into the world, O daughter of the air, above all else you must know this, to breathe. Shake off the need for speed, the oysters on your tail, now find another way to be a girl. Survey the land and men, and hear the curious tune. It's carried by the waves into your ears. Up here, the fishes fly, between the trees and sky. It's them that sing the curious tune you hear. Forget the deep below, they trill into the wind. On earth you are, and of the sea, no more. Heed well the song of birds, don't scan too hard the shores. Don't seek forever and anon the boy. It's him, your darling prince, now you, a string of kelp. Your heart begins to float and then unfurl. No tide pulls at your heart, no gravity of moon. All other forces slip away, you swoon. Your feet, near paralyzed, each step feels like a sword. You hold your breath and soldier on. Observe. his eyes, more blue than sea. That's where you'd like to be. Try out your wings in that strange thing, the sky. You try to be alive, to see yourself on earth. Deep down, you find the strength to take a breath. Your end is your design. Examination done, you take a step, and then one more. You're here. Okay, and this one is an old poem of mine. It's called Sources of My Being. And it examines examines my family of origin and then my boyfriend's family, who I met when I was 15. 1. I am from Norma and John, Kathy and Dave, Janet and David. From Olympia farmers and upstate New York families. From school teachers and pacifist soldiers. From housewives and Capitol building clerks. From a survivor of the Bataan Death March, mentally disturbed, who married against doctors' orders. From Bible readers and students of Hebrew and Arabic script. I am from Alaska, Georgia, Washington, Judy Blume and Charlie's Angels, Farrah moving to the rhythm of Mom's Chopin piano tunes. From German and U.S. Army bases, from fundamentalist Christian churches, from Republicans, wooden station wagons, and cross-country road trips. From Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens, Green River tubing and chlorine pool diving. I am from Gouda cheese eaters and teetotalers, from food bank dinners and macaroni and cheese in a box with baked potatoes, eaten in quiet company, plates set squarely in front, past the butter. I am from solitude, craziness, and wordless inner searches. 2. I am from Mai, Ming Simon and Pusian, Ming Ni and Pupun, my boyfriend's family become my own. From Cambodian farmers and jewel miners. From French-speaking elders and one who didn't go to school. From war refugees who never saw the doctor. I am from Buddhist-leaning, trauma-dealing Cambodian neighborhoods, from tiny roach-infested apartments along the west coast, garlic and fish sauce wafting through the rooms, melancholy words of another tongue emanating from the TV, the long-haired beauty always crying. From April New Year festivals with coconut milk and rice ball desserts and crowded tables. From believers in karma, our blue Monte Carlo, and long drives to nowhere. From a culture that does not read maps to get around. I am from lemongrass, beef soup, and steamed jasmine rice. From small round eggplants dipped in fish paste, shared boisterously, talking and eating, eating and talking. Yombai, they ask, eat some rice? I am from strength, trauma, and healing. 3. Who am I to say I am just me? And finally, a shorter poem about the Little Mermaid again. The Girl in 3 Spheres. Once there was a little mermaid who fell in love with a human boy, who fell in love with an unknown world, who fell in love with mutability. Once there was a little mermaid who yearned for earthbound legs, who ached for the love of a prince, who offered her soul for a chance. Once there was a little mermaid who changed clothes same as her identity, who forged a path into mystery, who crossed the border of insanity. Once there was a little mermaid who made tough choices for love, who found her way without speech, who danced on the glass of broken dreams. Once there was a little mermaid who was ultimately rebuffed, who came of age on land, who was transformed into foam. Oh, daughter of the air, you yearned to connect with a stranger. Now spirituality is your heir, and we are but the wiser to hear your story told. Thank you, Aria.
Thank you, Pamela. Our last reader, but by far not the least, Dawn Marie Oliver is a poem writing, motorcycle riding, book devouring, picture taking escapee from Minnesota. Currently only published in obscure northern Minnesota college lit rags, Dawn Marie dreams of sparking a poetry revolution where poetry is sold on street corners and poets treated as the celebrities that they are. Her inspirations are as varied as the names of the stars, from the teen poets she's met to Hecate and Hestia of Greek mythology, to the depressing reality of the evening news. Her most strongly held belief is that you are your own fairy godmother. Dawn Marie.
Thank you. And again, thanks to Bella and thanks to Jeannine. I feel honored. And I always wanted to give up my legs and be a mermaid and live in the water because I grew up in the land of 10,000 lakes, and they are not exaggerating. There really are that many. This one is called Matrushka. Solo on stage, soft violet lights blur me into a glamorous soft focus, obscuring my many-armed silhouette. Each white hand clasps its fan, revolving, fluttering, opening and closing with a snap. Tiny silver mirrors winking out, code ciphers within codes, a message, not Anonymous's doe-eyed plea of, please hear what I'm not saying, but a tired, weary, when will you listen to what I am saying? Stop turning me into your suburban Cassandra. Stop insisting I drop my fans, insisting I am your Matrushka, that you can unpack me down to my small, vulnerable core, parade me around until you grow bored and drop me onto the floor, into the crowd, and then blame me when I refuse to let you patch me up with your own personal brand of superglue, rearranging my features to suit some pattern you claim to prefer, freezing my eyes onto your face, my hands reaching always to you in supplication and subservience. In an era of pole dancing and televised liposuction, the restrained art of the band dance is seen as quaint, restrained, somehow unfair in its slow-paced reveal, showing you only one piece of my whole at a time, even showing some sections in only shadows and lowlights. Matrushka to my core, don't mistake my garish outer shell for the heart of me. Don't mistake their stiff smiles and artifice for the truth, but rather listen at the keyholes to the locks on each layer and quietly, reverently tumble my locks, slowly unwrapping another layer. Like a Tootsie Roll lollipop, it's unknown how many locks it takes to get to my sapphire center. But if you wait and watch, cleverly solve my puzzles, reveal behind each fan, you might see my true name. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, all of you, for being here, and thank you to Laura Lee for emceeing, and thank you to everyone. I just wanted to say, too, just a special thing of thanks for how much fun it's been to work with everybody all year, and I personally think anybody that read today, and probably some other people in this room, would be wonderful Redmond Poet Laureates in the future, so just think about it. You never know. And anyway, thanks again. Eat, drink, be merry, look at art, buy books, all the good things. Thank you so much, you guys. And I should put that back on.
I'll write to you.
I usually teach night classes on Fridays, except in the summer. So during like July and August, I actually